to call the meeting to order. It's Thursday, April 23rd. And this is the regular board meeting of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. Our first is setting the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Mike?
Managers, due to some delays in getting materials submittals for the permits that are listed, permit 25015 and then 25019. Those two permits are going to be, we're recommending that we move them to the next meeting because these are larger subdivisions. I'm sure Greg, I know he's prepared to talk about them, and staff can as well, but one is what we refer to as Chestnut Creek Phase 2. And the other one is another Amberley Woods is another development in that same vicinity, but a larger one as well. So they still need to go through some steps with the city. So we do not anticipate any delays from the developer side. And they're not here obviously either. So
Okay, so we'll just plan on postponing it to the next meeting, next week's meeting then? Okay.
right.
Any other changes or additions? Okay, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended by Administrator Kinney.
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda as revised.
Thank you very much, Dave. Yes,
The agenda, not consent agenda.
I mean I'm sorry, the agenda. Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry.
I'll
So
make the motion to accept the agenda as as revised.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have a second to that?
Got a second.
Thank you, Doug. So then let's do a roll call.
Sure. Manager Schrottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Doherty,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye, so the consent agenda is accepted. I mean, the agenda is accepted. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We have two items this evening. Regular board meeting minutes from March 26th of this year, and then a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation 5-star grant application. So I entertain a motion to, are there any changes or additions to the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as listed.
I will make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dave. We have a second.
I will second that as well.
Thank you, Doug. And then let's do a roll call.
Can I just ask a quick question while we're in the discussion phase?
Sure, Jim.
What's the difference between the consent agenda and the agenda? What am I voting on here?
The consent agenda is traditionally standard items that don't normally need to be discussed in detail, so it's more of a history. And
Okay.
then it's just a matter of accepting them, although unless somebody reads them and finds out that they want to make an adjustment to the minutes or something, then we'll postpone it to the following meeting to make those changes.
I get the minutes, but the grant, is that are we approving dollars here, or is this just application?
It is managers, it is to direct staff to proceed with the process of doing the application. So the grant requires 5 entities. We have not started communicating with anyone, but we want to just make sure the board is okay with the staff moving toward the application process. So
Okay, thank you for,
because it's over $40,000 here.
all right. Thank you.
Good question, Jim. I wasn't aware of that one either, so I've learned something here tonight too. Thanks, Mike.
Mike, question. It kind of looks like this really doesn't require any cash from us in this process. It can all be done through in-kind sort of things. Is that correct?
Yes, it could be district's time, volunteer time, or other state grants. So this would be because it's a different type of grant. So we could use matching state dollars as well, plus some of our federal dollars, but we're going to try to preserve those for other matching funds for state grants. So
Yeah, sounds like a good shot.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead. Any questions?
Mr. Holmes.
yep. Mr. Chair, managers, just for informational purposes in response to Manager Schottmuller's question, the consent agenda is an agenda that ordinarily is moved and passed without discussion. Under Robert's rules, if somebody wishes to discuss a matter on the consent agenda, the practice would be to remove the item from consent to regular agenda, and then to pass the consent agenda, and then to take up the other item as a part of the regular agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so Chuck, I have a question on that since you brought it up and opened up for questions. Since the agenda has already been set, how can we move it to the agenda if it's already been set beforehand?
It's just moving it from consent agenda, which can be done on the request of any manager. It doesn't require a motion.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other questions on this topic before we move on? Okay, not, President Anderson's here. Jackie, anytime you would ready to step in, let me
Go
know.
ahead.
Okay.
I'll need time to get my
Yeah.
computer up, so.
Next item is item 4, the public open forum.
Mr.
Is
Did
there
we
a-
vote?
Yeah, there's a need for a vote.
I thought we did vote, did we not?
Consent.
Nope.
You had a first and a second, or a motion and a second, but.
Right. So let's call the roll call then for the vote.
Manager Schottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, so the consent agenda's been approved. Moving on to public open forum. This stage, we normally have an open forum to entertain any comments from the audience that wants to address the board. So I'll declare the public open forum open. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the board?
I'll address the board.
Ted?
Yep. And it's, and I guess it's, looking at the annual report, page 25, and I guess my challenge is the board to move towards operating under a balanced budget. I think, looking at the 2025, it's the 11th year where we've spent more than our revenue, and I look at our revenue as being levy grants, permit fees, and interest income.
That's it.
And that's it. So it's how do we move to our expenses to be in line with that? And then I think looking at the 26 budget, we're also expenditures are above budget. So my challenge is how can we move to operating in a balanced budget arena? And while doing that, keeping our levy at a reasonable rate with levy increases. And that's my comments.
Does anybody have any comments for Ted?
No, I don't think we need to do that. It's not an argument. It's not a debate right now. It's just his comments that we will record. And as you said, keep them in mind as we start our process.
Well, thank you for that comment.
Yep.
And we're gonna be starting on the 27 budget, so again, we'll have another opportunity to try to get there this year.
Yep.
Any other comments to be made by someone in the audience? Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to declare the open forum closed. And we'll move on next to the advisory committee updates.
I'm ready to take.
Okay.
over. Okay.
So why don't you take over, manager? Just so you know, we did have an agenda change.
Mhm.
New business items 6A and 6B, the 2 permits, are being postponed to the next board
Okay,
meeting. So you can adjust your agenda accordingly.
All right. And you've already started the discussion to the reports on the
Well, we're doing
advisory
the,
committee.
no, I just brought it up, so.
That's what I meant. We're moving to that. All right. Who's going to do that report?
So I was in attendance, Aiden is at the Lake Association meeting, so. There's 7 on Tuesday, April 14th, there were 7 of our advisory committee members were in attendance, and we got over basically some of the watershed updates, including the status of a future project of the Heath Avenue Iron Handstand Filter, as well as some of the completion of the prescribed burn at North Shore Trail, nature area. Emily Hines had went over the annual reports, progress report and annual report, for the committee. Then Aiden had gone through the highlights of the comprehensive monitoring report, and there's further discussion on that. And yeah, basically there's been more discussion about, I guess the grants and the operations and the overall, discussion about how those water bodies are economic drivers for the community. That's all to report.
Was that relating to the Forest Lake situation or all of it?
In general, but I mean, just, we've shared that, I mean, all of them are collectively, a lot of the next are drivers, people move up here, they live up here, they visit here because of the water features,
Any questions on that report? All right, hearing none, let's move on to new business. First item is 2025 audit report.
And President Justin Nielsen is here from Abdo. They are the auditor for the district, and he's here to present the report and have a discussion with managers. I did distribute the draft documents to the managers earlier in the week. And then Monday we had a meeting with the auditor team and Redpath, with President Anderson and Treasurer Schmaltz. But Justin, I think we're ready to let you do your presentation.
Sounds good. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear.
Okay. Do you want me to present my screen?
I have the presentation.
Sounds great. All right, I'll just get started on this side. I really appreciate you having me at your meeting this evening, and I always like to start my presentations by just thanking the board for having us as your audit firm, and also just like to thank everybody at that was involved in the process. Redpath was involved, and obviously the staff at the district was also involved. So I appreciate all their help as part of the process. We need their involvement and assistance to get things completed. So we appreciate everybody's assistance and help with the audit process. So you can move to the next slide, and I'll just go over, the audit results and get right into it for the 2025 year. So we did issue a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the opinion that the district is looking for. We arrived at that opinion by testing a number of different transactions around paying of bills, paying of employees, looking at, state grant transactions, property taxes, what the board gets to make decisions, etc. So again, these would be the things that we test related to internal controls around the financial statements. And again, came to our opinion, which is unmodified, and we didn't have any internal control related findings that we are reporting as part of our audit. So a good sign there. The second thing we are required to test as part of our audit is Minnesota state statutes and compliance with those statutes. The Office of the State Auditor does put specific ads in their website that we are required to test. However, we do test a few others as well. Again, a couple examples of those items would be timely payment of bills within 35 days of receipt, and any lack of conflicts of interest with anybody at the board level or at the district. So again, no instances of non-compliance as it notes there. So a clean audit with no findings for the 2025 year. So getting into a little bit of the results, the next slide we have is the general fund balance compared to the future year budget. So again, on the screen, we look at the total reserves in the general fund offset 1 year by the future year's budget. So again, we're comparing the current year reserves to the future budget. So it's kind of offset correctly there. So again, as we can see there, a little bit of an up and down for the general fund where things have steadied out a little bit, kind of in the 50 to 60% range. And you can kind of see where the general fund balance, the general fund budget has been, and what it's projected to be in 2026. You can flip to the next one, look at just focusing on 2025. Again, we're going to focus on the 2025 year, looking at the budget to actual, again, just for this year. So again, the district had an approved and amended final budget to actually decrease its fund balance, close to $7,000. Actual results did come in with the general fund decreasing closer to 60,000. Again, we do have some bullet notes. I'll try and read them here. One of the main things I'd like to point out just real quick is that we'd had some accounting related entries that were needed with some of the new loans that were issued. So again, there was a lease issued of $180,465, which is offset by expenditures there as well. So give me 1 second here. All right, sorry, one of my kids was banging at the door. So again, I just want to point that out at first here that we do see a little bit of an over expenditure in that 230,000 range. Again, that's offset by that lease issued other financing source. So again, if we take that out, or we can kind of imagine that without, again, the expenditures were over budget, closer to to 50 or 60,000 there. And some of the main reasons for that would be just some of the general admin costs and professional services. So again, revenues were pretty consistent to budget. And again, as I mentioned, the general fund balance did go down close to 60,000. All right, so the next would be the program and project implementation fund. Again, budget to actual for 2025. This is where a big chunk of the activity is for the dollars and some of the project and programs that the district operates. Again, there was a final amended budget to decrease fund balance close to 230,000. Again, with some of those revenues and expenditures, as well as offsetting some of those loans issued. Again, the decrease in fund balance was closer to 150,000 during the year. Again, revenues were under budget, close to 115,000 for reimbursements and grants. And again, some of those project costs were almost off or had the same budget variance. And again, some of the main variances were the program costs with individual lake projects and other things coming in under budget, close to $77,000 there. So overall, a good year for this fund. Again, there is that new loan that was issued, close to 500,000 there, that we'll look at on the next slide here. So the next one would be the debt service funds. So this is more informational in nature, but the district does have debt that it needs to pay back, and we have those set aside kind of in a separate fund that is restricted for debt service payments. So again, we can see the revenues a little bit under budget, close to 7,000 just with the property tax collections in comparison with the budget. And again, the overall principal and interest payments were under budget as well, close to 15,000. Again, this fund did decrease close to $19,000. Again, with just the overall expenditures for those principal and interest paybacks in excess of the current year resources. Again, we do have close to 460,000 of restricted fund balance remaining to pay those bonds or those loans in the future. Again, we also just have a chart there that just does outline the balance at year end, and just some additional information on those loans, when they were issued, interest rate, etc. So that is the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
You don't have the page that shows our net position, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Okay. Do you have that? Can Emily pull that up? She'll be able to maybe.
Yes, we should be able to find it.
Yeah.
Sorry, will you repeat what you wanted pulled up again?
The net position page.
Sure, a moment.
Yeah. Somewhere in the 20s, I think, with upper 20s, 30.
It would be page 24.
Very good. Have it
Thanks,
just
Justin.
You could also look at page 25, kind of outlines the activity and how we got there, but either one.
Anybody blow that up? Increase the, there we go. There we go. That's good. Okay, can you speak to this one? I think this is the one that No, I don't think this is it. It showed our net position being positive.
Yeah, page 25.
The same as equal to the money that we transferred for the Bone Lake South nature area.
Do you want me to present, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I'm
yeah.
not following.
Yeah, you know, well, it's the one that showed us positive, almost equal to the money, the grants that we got for the Bone Lake South nature area.
I think this chart again, our presentation focuses mainly on the current resources method or the governmental
Yeah.
presentation of property taxes and expenditures and
Mhm.
things of that nature. Again, to outline this is what we call the government-wide financial statements, and the government-wide financial statements actually include the long-term assets and liabilities of the watershed district. Versus again, the current resource method shows, again, debt service expenditures or outflow of just the expenditures versus, those capital assets. So this statement in particular, again, does show an increase in net position of, $2.1 million approximately, where the net position in the past had been negative. That did contribute to an increase in net position this year. Again, there was a grant that was received to offset a majority or all the cost of that land. So again, the net position with those assets increasing of the district, did have a positive impact again on the overall, financial position when it compares to the debt assets and things of that nature.
So when that project was finished, obviously it became our property, and so that transfer occurred. And I thought this was an important one for people to see and understand, because we're looking at some of the other properties. Nothing's gonna be this big, but making sure that we are putting those in the right buckets, if you will, on the chart of account so that it hits the right area and we can trace that value. We do have some properties, again, not nearly as big as this Bone Lake one, but it helps. So we'll be watching that closely, but I just wanted, especially, people like you, Ted, that have had experience with this, that there are those big assets that have to sit where they have to sit.
Yep.
And when it's all done, it balances out, but this is a good page to spend some time on. Those 20 to 30, I think, are really the important ones when we want to see what we haven't budgeted enough for. Take all of that into account as we start our new 2027 budget here in a few weeks, so. Okay.
So where are all the net assets of all the properties that we own? You said they're somewhere, but
Well, they're in a,
Balance sheet.
yeah, they're in a report. We don't see that all the time, but we should have it when we do our budgeting. And that's what I mean. And then to understand that correlation between where it has to reside until the project or the property has changed hands, and that can take a while. Bone Lake took over a year, I think, right? To finish it up, year and a half, maybe.
4 years to go.
Well, yeah, I meant when he really started working on it. though.
Yeah, it's a full year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and President Manager, Schotmiller's question, district staff has a compilation. It's been provided to the board within the last year, and we can present that again at a future meeting, maybe during the budget process as to all the district properties and easements, things like that.
It's on the web, isn't it? I mean, we can access that, the board can.
If in a past board meeting, it probably is, and I guess I don't know if
Yeah.
I'd have to take a look specifically to find out where it
Yes.
is.
Okay,
That one I don't remember, but we have it compiled and it's readily available.
It's on 21, is a gross estimate.
okay.
If they wanna put that up.
21,
Yeah, 21.
okay, page 21. Okay. You want to point it out, Steve?
Well, the top three lines, it's assets, land, equipment, lease, building.
Yeah.
It's not individually identified, but it shows you in aggregate what the categories
Yeah.
are and how much we have.
Does that sound right, Mike, to you, 525,000? A lot of it is easements areas, but, I think there's a few.
Well, but many of them, you know, properties, especially for like the Gould property over by the. This, I can't remember, 10 acres or something
Mhm.
donated, McNamara property, is 7 acres donated, tax forfeit properties. Same, right, no, very little cost and.
Yeah.
Little was given.
Yeah.
Most of the properties are full wetlands,
Mhm.
little assessed value on it.
Okay. All right, so anyway, so that will all get, considered, I mean, as we go forward for our new budget. Any other questions at this time? Okay. Then I think we need a motion to accept that.
So moved.
President Anderson, I'll make the motion to accept the ABDO prepared 2025 Executive Governance Summary and Annual Financial Report of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District for the year ended December 31st, 2025, and direct the staff to forward the information to the state of Minnesota as required.
Thank you.
I'll second them.
Okay, thank you. You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay,
President
Well-
Anderson, I'll just
Yes.
comment that we do have a clean audit, and that is good news.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ABDO.
And a positive net position.
Thank you, staff and board members.
Yeah. Okay, roll call?
Manager Schottenmiller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Did you call Tate? Manager Tate?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Yep, thank you for having me. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
Next item B, 2027 budget schedule and outreach plan.
And president managers, staff, particularly Emily and Brad have been working on, coordinating this. I think Emily sent out an email, so we can kind of go over both the Adam was involved as well. But the proposed, schedule and outreach plan, there are some dates that need to be set. And I think we have. Emily, can you correct me? Did you send that out to the managers already? Or were I know you
Yes.
want some.
And it's on the following slide.
Okay, so we would like the managers to affirm their availability for these following dates and times that are being recommended.
Are there any questions? Anyone has? Emily, anything you want to add?
We put forth, we always put forth a budget schedule, and we just added a little bit more detail this time and trying to set as many dates in advance as possible. And so we had 2 recommended actions. The recommended action on the last slide, which was just to approve the budget schedule and outreach plan, and then to look at the specific dates. And if the board is comfortable with those dates, we could go ahead and just settle on those. I don't think it needs to be a motion, but just getting consensus from the managers on those dates.
And we are, should have looked at this earlier, I didn't, we are recognizing the 30th of September as the final date, correct? All right, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the board, for the board, or the staff, I mean?
President Anderson, can we see those dates again? The information I received indicated need to set a date, but now I see dates on the PowerPoint slide. So I think I need a moment to go over my calendar and get those dates recorded.
Sure, Manager Baki, when we had set the, we said we needed to set dates, and I appreciate all the managers sending it over email their availability. And so I cross-referenced that availability with staff's availability on the calendar, and I only just sent out these proposed dates yesterday. So kind of looking at them now, they should hopefully be available for everyone. And if the managers want more time, then maybe we could just start with setting workshop number 1, and then we can go from there if you'd like more time.
I just need about 5 minutes to go through and write these dates into my calendar. I don't know about the other managers, but.
Emily, I'm good with the dates you have listed on proposed dates, so you can mark me down as okay, at least for now.
The dates can be emailed out to,
Yeah.
all the managers as well.
I would just, I mean, looking through the schedule, and I don't think anybody's had a chance to really study it, but maybe at the next meeting, we could talk about this, but anything that you're going to produce for public consumption, we should see at the board level before it goes out. We want to make sure that it says what the board wants it to say. I'm sure it'll be fine, but just as a precaution, I think that's a good policy.
Well, I know staff was trying to work with the managers and everybody has their schedules, but we're also just looking to get these set so then people can plan accordingly. I do have a question while Manager Baki is putting on his calendar or everyone else for council. Mr. Holtman, if the board is to approve this schedule at these dates and times, would these at a public meeting, would these become then regular meetings or would these still be all considered special meetings?
Madam Chair, Mr. Kinney, the board could do it either way. The board could by motion amend its annual public meeting schedule to add these meetings as regular meetings.
Can we make comments on that suggestion? Yeah, I guess historically, we've tried to set a time aside away from our daily activities. And by calling it a public meeting, that's inviting other topics to be brought to the meeting. I would rather leave it as a special meeting, budget meeting, related meeting, unless there's some disadvantage to that. I mean, they're busy enough the way they are, right, with all the things we have to discuss. And so,
I think the workshop way, it's the way to go, because that's how we've always done it. I don't know of anybody that holds them, the where you're cooking the sausage, basically, that process. I don't know that any other public entity that I'm aware of has it at a regular meeting. It gets, we did when we were young, but it's too much on a busy agenda to change focus and spend an hour late in the evening on budget items. So I think the way we've been doing it is the right way.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Holtman. Clarification.
To clarify, just to
What was that?
I'm sorry. Just to clarify.
Okay.
You can, I'm just noting that you can call these public meetings and add them to your calendar on their dates, not to force them into your existing regular meetings, but to add them as additional meetings if you wish. But alternatively, you can just continue as you've done to take them as special meetings and then just post the 3 days notice for each individual workshop.
Right. Yeah, that's how I've seen it done. So, all right. So what else do we need, to do here, Emily?
If the managers would like to go back to the other slide and approve the proposed budget schedule and outreach plan, if you wish.
Okay, again, the caveat on that outreach is that the board sees whatever it is you're going to be preparing for the public before it goes out. And any newspaper articles should be the chair, as our bylaws state. So we'll have to talk more about that. And I don't know how much more we need to say when we are in the process. It's more when we have a proposed budget that I think this outreach to the public would happen. So we can talk about that, but does anyone want to make that motion as?
As Manager Bucky, Dave, have you had a chance to check the dates before we make it, we freeze them?
I have them on my calendar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, okay.
Victoria, will you go back 2 slides, please? Thank you.
So I'll move to approve the 2027 budget schedule and the outreach plan.
With those caveats.
With those caveats, yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Manager Shopmiller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye,
and President Anderson.
Aye. Passes unanimous. Move on. C, watershed management plan minor amendment.
Madam President and Managers, so this was discussed briefly at a prior meeting, but Emily can go over this. She would be leading the effort for the district, I think.
Thank you. Madam President, managers, we are proposing a minor watershed management plan amendment. The primary reason why we'd like to do an amendment at this time is to update our capital improvement plan to include a few projects that we have on the horizon. The most timely is the East Comfort Pond project, which we've been talking about, which was identified through diagnostic monitoring. And it would just make things very clear if we added it by name to the CIP, rather than just housing it under the diagnostic implementation item. And then while we're at it, we had a few other clarifications as well, just adding the Broadway Iron Enhanced Sand Filter project, which we have a pending grant application, and that project may move forward if grant funding is awarded. And then we also have the floodplain vulnerability framework that we're still working on, but we're aiming to get that action plan accepted. Hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be discussing it. And then ideally accepting that plan, finalizing that prior to actually finalizing the amendment. So tonight's motion in front of you to adopt that resolution is merely to initiate the plan amendment process. And so we would send the draft language out to the plan review authorities and interagency partners, state agencies, cities, counties, and so on for a 30-day comment period. And then essentially looking to hold a public meeting also on May 14th, where we will further explain the minor amendment for any folks that are interested in learning more about it. We'll do a presentation. And then ultimately looking to adopt the plan amendment, provided that Bowser or any other of the plan reviewers don't find any issue with it. And then finally, I'll note one other addition that we suggested in the amendment language was to update the mission statement and make reference to the strategic plan that the board adopted last year. So just kind of a few items that are timely and easy to amend right now. And recommending that the board initiate the plan amendment.
Emily, aren't those areas already identified in our current 10-year plan? Maybe not specific projects, but the areas where the projects are taking place?
The plan does make reference to some priority zones where projects are to take place. And it also has these kind of general implementation items in the CIP that talks about how we do these diagnostic studies and we use that data and use adaptive management and we implement projects based on the diagnostic studies. And so I think you could make an argument that our plan kind of covers this, but it would just more obviously call out these projects and state them very clearly.
Okay, it's the same thing goes for the Greenway project and the floodplain. If they go together, those are kind of the same things, I think. But we have mention of that as well, don't we, in the current 10-year plan?
Yes, we have mention of the Greenway, and the board has kind of started calling it the Green Belt and Open Space. So that was just a few minor wording changes that we included in that language. And then, there's a little bit of there's mention of doing a floodplain vulnerability assessment, but we would recommend just adding to the CIP this implementation item for the Flood Resiliency Action Plan framework. Again, just making it abundantly clear, giving it a very obvious home in the plan to reference.
Okay, Chuck, is that necessary?
Well, Madam Chair, there's a necessity to amend first for the priority for the East Comfort Pond project because the element that in the implementation plan that sets forth implementing from the diagnostic study names the types of projects that may be included, and that description doesn't include the type of project that East Comfort Pond is. So it's important to just do that now through a simple plan amendment and not have it get hung up at the implementation stage. And then the rest are, I defer to Emily on the overall implementation program, but it's always good. It's a simple way to provide for a description that encompasses what the district may want to do, as opposed to going forward and then having someone raise an issue with it at a time that it delays progress.
Yeah, well, the whole concept of adaptive management is to be working, basically where you plan to be working and not have specific projects outlined necessarily, but that adaptive management, even if you had one and you changed it, adaptive management, as long as you're working toward clean water, it typically, was okay, and that's why we chose to use that type of science, if you will, in our plans from the beginning. I just want to make sure that we're not doing something that we don't have to do, but if you think it's going to stop some thing that unexpected from happening, with specific guidance, in the plan, I guess that's okay. That's going to be on the capital project side of things. So I guess it makes some sense there. How long does it take to do a minor amendment?
It can be 60 days or less. It's basically to send the information out to certain agencies, give them 30 days to comment, including your state agencies as well as the counties and the cities and towns and soil and water, and then just have a public agenda item where the public can comment, which can occur during the comment period itself. So it can all be done within 30 days, and then just around that to include time for staff to send things out and bring them forward ultimately for your action.
Okay, so it's efficient. All right.
It's efficient.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions from the board?
Yes, I'm just wondering, what's the financial impact of this amendment?
As far as the project money, what
I
are
mean,
you
if we're
talking
just,
about? Equal staff time, what?
we are making a change, and I'm just wondering, is there a financial impact to the change? Or is it just, keeping track of things in a different place?
Okay, it's a good question. Emily, you want to answer that?
Sure, Manager Shopmuller, managers, that's a good question. This will be really dependent on grants. So the first project I mentioned, East Comfort Pond, we do have a grant in hand for that. The Broadway Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, that would only move forward if the grant is awarded. And then same for implementation of the flood resiliency projects, will be dependent on securing outside funding. So there are estimated costs associated with it, but we know that they will be reliant on our ability to get grants for it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. I do have a question on East Comfort Pond. Also, is that part of the city infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure?
It is not.
Okay, so that's just part of that development?
So it would have been part of the township originally,
Yeah.
and it's not, so it was constructed, but it was never incorporated into part of their MS4 infrastructure.
Okay.
So there's no as-built or anything of record.
Mm-hmm. But it's still part of the city, I guess, is what I'm saying. I mean, is that our expense, or should that be the city expense under MS4?
Well, since it's not an MS4 component, it's not the responsibility of the city then.
Didn't they take it over when they annexed the township? I mean,
Apparently there were not records for it, so it did not get incorporated into their MS4 permit, to our understanding.
Okay.
So it's now.
So it's become a pollutant source that hasn't been maintained. Yeah,
And it's on private property.
okay, all right. Okay.
But there were,
Just to clarify.
I also do believe though that there were some underlying easements or something. Is that, Emily, do you recall that, or Mr. Holman? On the property? Craig, do you know by chance?
I don't have any knowledge about it.
Okay, then maybe I'm probably misspeaking then. Okay. Yeah.
I think there are some easements out there.
Yeah, but I'm quite sure it's not part of the city's MS4 permit.
Okay.
Be able to speak on it a little bit. We had some old plans that had easements outlined, but to my knowledge, we didn't have any agencies claim those easements. As of yet.
They were not recorded. Okay.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, that answers that question. Any other questions, comments? All right,
I have a couple.
yes, yeah, please, go ahead.
We put our new mission statement in here, which is great, but we spent a lot of time, I think it was last year, working on a new mission statement, and then a lot of work on our operating core values
Yes.
and principles. And there was a single chart put together with the vision statement, with checking questions, et cetera, which I think read very nicely for the public. I think we should try to find a place to put that somewhere in the 10-year plan
Mhm.
as a separate page, where it stands alone. And if it stands alone, it reads much better if I recall correctly, but it's been a while since I've looked at it. And so Emily, I don't know where you would put that, but if you could find the sections where you keep it all together in one spot with the checking questions that are in it, part of it, I think it helps the public understand who we are, how we operate, and what we believe in.
Yeah, we could do that easily.
Or maybe you can just show it to the rest of the board when we see it again. The other thing, I just went through this quickly, on page 3. On that bottom paragraph, in blue, we have a series of, management principles. We have scientific technologies and methods to develop uniform, and then I inserted cost-efficient, fiscally responsible, and integrated approaches, et cetera. So I interject or recommend that the term cost efficient be put in there. Because cost efficiency is one of our major operating principles. And it's different than fiscal responsibility. Fiscal responsibility is what Ted after us for. This is more of the down to earth, stuff that we've been working on that really differentiates us. So I would like to recommend we consider putting that in.
What page are you on?
Page 3.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Man, that's damage. I catch up here so we don't get people.
There we go. Okay, I got it.
Would you want to read that again, or are you gonna, or is Emily gonna? Oh, okay.
Is this what,
Insert between develop uniform and fiscally responsible. I think it fits best there.
Is it written down here or are you
No,
shooting?
she's typing it live now
Okay,
on the screen. Is that what you?
Yeah, that's good. And then on the bottom of page 122, you forgot to cross out Greenway, so you've got Greenway Greenbelt double up. Just a minor typo,
got it, thank you.
okay? And then on page 123, I don't see any changes on this page. Either we don't
It's
need
just,
it or.
it reorders the pages, and so it's just showing that had to spill over to another page, and so this gets moved to page
So there's
123.
really no changes on there that haven't been highlighted.
Correct, just the
Okay.
way the pages fall out.
And I think that is it. So do we know action on this?
so your addition is just the narrative, it's not proposing a new motto or.
No, I'm just proposing we put our vision statement and key attributes like we worked on, and it never did get into the plan because we didn't have a need to add it, right?
Yeah,
So now we got this opportunity, we should stick it in there.
yeah. I always like this one. Innovative scientific approaches, outstanding outcomes. If we're gonna have a statement, I think that's who we are. In 5 words, but anyway. We'll go with yours because I don't think.
It's not mine, we spent like
Well,
4 weeks on
I
this.
don't think that we're going to be changing our mottos or anything like that, so. But it
Okay.
just clarifies in the
It sounds like a
narrative.
good tagline, maybe under the logo or
That's,
something.
that's what I meant.
So you want a motion on this, or?
Yes, we need a motion.
So I'll move to adopt resolution 26-04-01, initiating the watershed management plan amendment.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Manager Chapman Mueller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Passes unanimous, thank you. Next item is Starry Stonewort Rapid Response Plan.
Hey, President, managers, just thought that there was some discussion at the last meeting about this, and so Mike Sandiger is here to kind of go over the work that they did and answer any questions. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Administrator Kinney. Good afternoon, Board of Managers. So I'll just do a quick overview here. I'll give some basic information on Starry Stonewort for those who aren't familiar, and then just discuss what we did during our tabletop exercise. So the rapid response plan is how we would deal with an infestation if it was found in the watershed district. Starry Stonewort is definitely the species that staff are most concerned about spreading to Comfort Lake. It's a macroalgae that grows in large, dense stands that can cover lake bottoms or even entire shallow water columns. It's difficult to treat, and it spreads easily, can outcompete native aquatic vegetation, and greatly affects lake usability and water quality. So it's really something we want to keep out of the district. The main way that it's transmitted is through insufficiently dried boats or trailers. And most up-to-date studies have found that starry stonewort can survive up to 6 hours out of the water, and all 38 infected lakes in the state are within 6 hours of the district. In 2025, we had 94 watercraft that entered district's lakes and informed watercraft inspectors they were coming from a starry stonewort infested lake, with 10 of those boats coming from Medicine Lake, which is less than an hour away from the district, and would pose the biggest threat of transmission. Right now, the most effective treatment methods is mechanical removal combined with copper algicide treatment. However, these treatments only reduce biomass and viability and will not remove the species from the lake unless detected extremely early. The district does have a floating barrier that would make treatment more effective. So prevention through our watercraft inspectors and the education they do really is the best method to keep starry stonewort out of the district. However, we do have a rapid response plan that guides us on what to do if an inspection is detected. This includes early detection methods at the boat launch to help us catch any infections early if possible. And then on the attachment to the memo, there's our rapid response plan. The staff ran through that, did a table exercise where we simulated all of the steps. We contacted anybody we don't regularly to make sure we have up-to-date contacts. We got some backup contacts for city staff. And then we also inspected the equipment, including the floating barrier that the district owns in conjunction with the city. Really just an exercise to get all of our staff reviewing our plans, make sure if the worst happens, we're able to implement it quickly and effectively. Open for any questions.
I have a question. This, when you're reading the background of this particular plant, it sounds to me a lot like Eurasian milfoil.
Yeah.
So it behaves that way. I mean, so why would we treat this differently than we do Eurasian milfoil?
The big difference is it's actually not a plant. It is an algae, which means we have to use the copper algicide. And it's just as bad as EWM with disrupting lake quality and lake usability. And it's just another species.
What's the algae? Is it this?
Yep, starry stonewort's not a plant. It's actually a macroalgae. In the field, it looks exactly like a plant. It's just made up of a bunch of algae that group together.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. It's absolutely devastating for lake usability, just like EWM.
Yeah. And so what's our position going to be on this? Is this going to be part of the treatment plant that we take care of?
We currently don't have any in the district. This is just, we just did a tabletop exercise on what if we found it. And then we also went over and looked at our early detection methods and making sure we're doing everything we can to catch any infestations early to try to control it.
Sandy, though, excuse me. I think President Anderson, what you're asking though is if there's, and this is probably a good follow on to this, is where in the budget would we take funds for an action? Because if
we do not have any funds dedicated to treatment of starry stonewort in our budget. So prevention is very important.
Yeah, of course it is, but I'm getting to a policy position here that I think we need to think about as a board. And maybe we can have this on the next meeting or, you know, one of them in May anyway, to pinpoint this. I've never thought it was okay for the district to expect lake associations to gather the money to do treatments on EWM. It's an invasive species. You know, we've got one big lake and the rest have 80 homes on them. So, you know, you're not going to gather that kind of money. It has to always be done by grant. And so if you have something that's damaging your lakes and you don't have the budget for it and you can't get a grant for it, then it just sits there. That's not our position. It shouldn't be our position as a watershed, in my opinion. We need to take care of these things and do it, as you mentioned, early on, so they don't have time to spread and we can take control over it. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on this, is that if we're going to be serious about keeping or trying to keep AIS out of our lakes, then we've got to do it all. We can't just monitor it and say, oh yeah, it's here, it's coming, and then expect the people that live around the lake to be the ones that have to cough up the money to fix it. So I'm just saying that we need to look at this as a policy that we're going to have toward invasive species. So I'd like to have that, like I said, on a future meeting so that we can actually approach it as a policy. What's our policy going to be?
Well, Forest Lake Association has the policy of having funds set aside in a rapid response fund. So the money's already there in a reserve fund to be tapped and used immediately. So that would be a simple solution, I think, to the question you're raising.
In the big lake, like yours, where you've got lots of homes, but when you've only got 60 homes or 80 homes.
No, I'm not saying we're gonna use their money. We should be, you know, we should have our own money to it too, not necessarily rely on that.
The watershed.
Right.
Yeah, good, okay.
Yeah,
Then
so that
let's-
would be an easy solution to
Yeah.
that problem. So, and we got an upcoming budget session, so maybe we can create that account or whatever it is.
Well, I think we should. That's why I wanna talk about it in May. Let's get that policy established. And then the budget follows.
I mean, we don't wanna go out and test. So we're at the vendor and trying to buy the copper algicide, and we have to go alone to get a tank or something like that. It's not very efficient. So,
Oh, it's
right.
not.
President Anderson,
Yes, who is that? I'm sorry.
Manager Baki.
Okay, thank you.
The Bone Lake Association has set aside money for treating aquatic invasive species. So it was something that was started a number of years ago, where residents around the lake were approached and asked to donate money. And so a fund has been established for that very purpose.
Mhm.
It's
And
not
how
a
much
lot of
money-
money, but it's something. And
I
I
was
think,
gonna
you know,
ask-
each water lake association should perhaps think about that, just as Forest
Yeah.
Lake has done. I mean, it is, we can't expect the watershed district to pay for everything. And I think as a resident of Bone Lake, I feel compelled to be able to pitch in and
Yeah.
pay for the taking care of our lake as well. So, you know, please consider
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, Comfort Lake also has a area for fisheries, keeping that healthy and stocking, but also for I don't know that it's EWM. I think it's mostly EWM for invasive species. So everybody has that. As what my point is that when you've got smaller lakes, it's hard to get that much money. There's contribution, but it's hard to get money to clean it all up. You know what I mean? The whole lake. So anyway, we can continue this in May and have a real thorough discussion. I know it wasn't meant to be a thorough discussion on this calendar, or excuse me, on this agenda, but we can get it on the calendar. Anybody else want to make a comment though, please do so. All right,
I have a comment.
Sure.
Mike, I thought this was a well put together document, and I think, as I mentioned at our Lake Association annual meeting, we had an outside speaker come in and talk about this subject. So there's a lot of concern about this, AIS getting into our lakes, especially with Medicine Lake being
Yeah.
across. So I was wondering, on this rapid response program, is this written up just for us, or do you have a more detailed version of this, action oriented?
The actions are listed on page 11. They're pretty uniform for each. The steps are pretty uniform across species. The specifics, where you would see differences are in the treatment methods.
What I was thinking of is having more specific information, exactly like who the vendor's going to be, what their phone number is, et cetera, all that information in case you're not here and somebody else has got to step in. If I had to start looking at phone numbers here, I'd be out 3 days trying to put all that information together. So if we had it all in one spot, it would be very helpful as a backup and a support plan for whoever has to do it.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Manager Schmaltz. We do have a general rapid response plan that has all of those listed in it.
Okay.
And we can provide that as well. And then just the last item I wanted to touch on, kind of with the budget talk around Starry Stonewort. It is the Minnesota DNR's priority, so it's the aquatic invasive species that receives the most grant funding from the state, and is prioritized in those applications.
I think it's great that we have our inspectors be able to check on this on a regular basis, but I think it'd be helpful also, because there's a concern in most lake associations, maybe we could do 2 mailings a year to the members of each lake association, and maybe even pass out one of these plastic cards like we have for Flowering Rush, that they could have something in their house that they could look at least remind them to each twice a year that this is an issue and we need to be able to take care of it. And maybe they start looking themselves at the same time because they know what it looks like. So that would be one thought. Yeah. The other thought would be, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can incorporate that in Adam's monthly newsletter to lake associations.
I think that's a great idea because I know they have a lot of interest in it, so I'm sure we'd have a good reception of the idea. The other thought is that since Medicine Lake's so close by, it might be worthwhile once, and I suspect they have inspectors there too, for maybe some staff to go over there or drive over there someday and see what's going on. What are they doing to keep it in their lake and letting it get out to see what they're doing? It'd be interesting to see if they're doing anything at all, if they're doing any inspections at all. Be interested to look for that particular species. So we might learn something from that, or maybe encourage management to do more or protect the rest of us.
Very good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, great job on this whole thing. I think it's probably our biggest challenge right now. So it's great to see us taking it head on like this. So thank you. Do we need any action on this? I don't think we do. Okay.
Okay. Next item, old business. 2025 year-end review, annual report and progress report.
When the president managers, district staff has prepared these. Emily's done presentations on them. At this point is just to accept or approve the reports for further transmission to the, one to the state and the others for our own use. But unless there's further questions, Emily's here to answer them as well.
Well, I have one comment. I didn't see it when I went through it the first time, but on second review, and now I can't remember which report it is. I think it's the year-end review. You talk about, there's a statement that says the district's mission, I don't know if that word's there, quite frankly, but it talks about our goal is to get our water bodies back to pre-development conditions. And that is not a true representation. What the goal actually was at the very beginning, was to bring our lakes and rivers back to pre-development conditions as much as possible. And that's very important to put on the end. If you don't do that, then some people are going to, start getting really crazy about, how much is that gonna take? How much longer is that gonna be? And so on. And that's never been anything that we thought was accomplishable to get to that level. But we certainly can get as close as we can. So if you would change that wording and use that wording going into the future as well. I saw it on something that,
It's the bottom of the second page of the document here, yes.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I saw that on one of the outreach flyers, and it's just really important to get that as close as we can in there. Or as close
Yeah,
as
we can make
possible.
that change.
Yeah, thank you.
The only question I have about that is that if you look at our rules and the issues we're having right now in defending our rules for being over and above what other people would like to see and what state statutes are, if we make this kind of a soft goal rather than a hard goal, are we giving up anything in our negotiations with the city for that area?
That's a question, I guess, for the board, because that's kind of right, it's kind of, well, one is what is that goal? So the district has set water quality goals in terms of phosphorus concentrations, lower than what the state standard is, but that's been based off of actual scientific data of taking core samples now, so we can support that, so, and I think that's, where we're at, but I think it is a good question overall, and it's a legitimate one that we're trying to both ask and answer at this time is like how more restrictive are Comfort Lake, Forest Lake watershed district rules compared to others? Are they, 1%, 5%, 20%? But then also, what is the cost benefit? So we were working with St. Anthony Falls Laboratory about trying to aggregate information about how much erosion, amount of sediment and typically associated nutrients would be discharged from a site. We know on Forest Lake, for example, that the sedimentation rate is roughly 4 times what it was, so from pre-development periods, but it's been going up over the last 40 years. So there is a cost and there is an impact. I think it is difficult to get to that. What is the last, good measure, so to speak, of what's needed from a protective standpoint? We've never heard from the city, Forest Lake or Wyoming. What's the cost benefit of doing the MS4? I'm not sure they know or anyone's ever made an attempt to calculate it. So I think it's one to continue to work toward, but I understand your concern and it kind of struck me the same, but at the same time, I'm not sure. It could be viewed by others that, that we are making a goal that's unattainable. As pre-development.
But that's why we do core sampling, to establish what that lake was like. So, we're structured for this. I mean, there's an explanation for it. We also wanted to have something that we could, we do that post monitoring to make sure that our projects actually do deliver what we say they're going to. And that's powerful. That's another cost, but it's powerful. It tells the story.
Right.
And
Well,
we're not hiding anything here.
from that
telling our
perspective,
story.
then doesn't the statement that the CLFLWD aims to bring lakes back to the isn't saying basically the same thing as what it aims to? It's not requiring, it's so maybe that additional wording is not necessary because there's already is that there's,
I think it's too strict when you don't put that as close as possible.
Madam President,
Yes,
I know this doesn't require consensus or 100% agreement, but my 2 cents, as it were, is I'm not sure that I am convinced that pre-development is the right measure, and seems a little arbitrary just in my initial thought of this, because it doesn't state specifics, and if we should identify specifics, and I would even venture to say I'm not sure it would be required in my mind. What are we focusing on? I mean, I think we can pick big topics and say, you know, lakes that are not infested with invasive species, lakes that are clear to a certain level, and we could define what we're really saying with pre-development. Limit the erosion to a certain level. It feels a little ambiguous, to the point where you can have some people say you could make that be anything, and then you have other people who could say, yeah, let's make that as strict as we can. So that's just my take on it. Take it for what it's worth.
Well, I think maybe I'm wrong on this, but Jim, I think that when you take a core sample, it's not an arbitrary result that we find out. Isn't a specific number that we have that's pre-development terms or not? Or is that just, I mean, I think it's 30, right? Or is 30 come out what the core sample says, or is that what you think pre-development was?
well,
'Cause we got a
no,
lot of
and I
technical
guess that's, so there's kind of several things, and I guess to a degree, everyone is right from, but so the core samples were done after the district had already established that the 30 microgram per liter goal
Okay.
for the lakes. So I made a recommendation because I was familiar with it and done the coring work in the past, so that was a way to validate the goals that were set. So, I mean, you know, through the, I guess it's certainly up for further discussion as to what those targets and goals should be. And again, I think it's going to be very difficult to get exact precision. We're not looking at something at the end of a pipe, or it's not an industrial process. So that the natural systems are very complex, right? And so,
I think the point was to make sure that we're not spending money on a lake that will never get to what we thought
Correct.
it was. So we do have established goals when you do a core sample. And our, one of these lakes may have been always kind of a dirty lake, for whatever reason. But they weren't, so
well,
the only one we seem to, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I apologize. I was just gonna note that my first experience was just that, Spring Lake and Scott County. All the historical records was that it was nutrient rich way, for as long as people could remember. So, it was a local resident that was around 80 said that his grandmother could remember when she was a child that lake being, pea green. So the core samples then validated that was the case.
Right.
And they actually changed the state standard for that one from 40 to 60. So using that data. But I think the other factor which I know is a concern for many managers, and what I think Andrew Schottmiller is trying to aim at here too, is that we do set targets for what we're willing to spend per unit, particularly in phosphorus. So we've looked at projects that have exceeded $1,000 per pound, which has been kind of a threshold at this point, and we've said, no, we'll just set them aside for a later consideration if needed. So, and we can come back and revisit some of those, I think now, as we've moved through time and we get closer to the goals for all these water bodies.
Yeah, and having it be better than the state standard. You know, state standards on anything are just, good enough. I mean, that's what a lot of things are coming out of the DNR. It's not the best that you can do, it's good enough. And so we wanted to take a different approach. And we wanted sustainability. We didn't want to stop at the state standard and then 5 years later have problems again in the lake. So if you understand what it was and what it could be, if we take out some of the impact, mostly of agricultural issues, and sometimes, we don't have a lot of them around here, but when you get plants, that are working in chemicals or anything else that damage water, we don't have a lot of that. So we had some pretty good guidelines on what sustainability would be from those core samples. And that's what we work for, is sustainability. We want to have this good for at least 20 years. So.
But that is, we're just talking about phosphorus as a number right now, right? Is that, that's what I'm hearing.
As
an example.
And
As
sediment.
an example, yeah.
Okay, so that would be, I would just say that if our goal is 30, then if that's what we've decided on Forest Lake at least, then that would be the goal. Or isn't, and 40 is the state standard, is that right? And if it's 31, it's listed, and if it's 39, it's not listed?
That is correct. It's fairly simple that way. And 12 years ago, Forest Lake hovered at that 39 range. And then in July and August, you would have a lot of blue-green algae and other algal blooms, and you were able to see about a foot down. So that, I mean, it's the difference between 30 and 40 is not a linear, it's logarithmic, right? But again, all these lakes are very complex. The standard is 2 out of the 3 things that we measure. It's not all of them. We're using the core samples to say, this is what the system was capable of prior to European settlement and impact. So that it seemed then that would be a goal that the organization could make to say that's what you could get back to. Is it precise? Is it 31? Is it 28? I mean, I don't know if the data is that accurate or if we want to get there. So it's utilizing the best known data and an approach that's highly structured and cost benefit to keep on moving forward towards improvements in protection.
Sure, and I completely appreciate this. And what I would love, as far as something that I could discuss with other folks who live in the area, is a standard that everybody could get behind. And everybody I know wants clean water. Everybody I know wants clean air. It doesn't matter what party they're from. It doesn't matter what business they run. It doesn't matter their income. Everybody wants to drink clean water. Everybody wants clean water in the lake. What that is would be easy for me to sell to somebody. At the same time, I think it would be it feels a little presumptuous or potentially costly to think that we can keep lakes the way they were before anyone was here. That to think we could, it sounds expensive, is what it sounds like, to try and pretend or to augment the lake to the point where it's like nobody was ever here. So it's just a thought.
Well, we're already there on Forest Lake, for example. So, and most of our lakes are already there. So it's a matter of having a cost-efficient approach that's delivered more than we expected, and it's we've got a good cushion now It's at 26, actually, or 27, I think.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So that's why it's kind of a
Yeah,
mute argument here or discussion.
Madam President, managers, Manager Chapman, I guess that I've always thought about it is looking at the landscape from a perspective of then, like, how do you now manage the current, because we're not gonna tear up the roads and, I mean, during the presentation of the Lake Association, the mayor brought up the MS4, right? So all the pipes and streets are not part of a natural system. But then what do you put into place to provide a reasonable level of protection through time? And the street sweeping is one way that we've discovered to be very cost effective in addressing that, right? So now MPCA is pushing it out to all the cities across the whole state because there's really nothing else that we know of that can address nutrients and sediment cheaper than doing that enhanced street sweeping. You know, so we want to keep working towards those things that are most cost effective, but we also want enough things in place to protect that. And we think that overall, these are reasonable methods out there that can accomplish that for the benefit. And when you start looking at the data in terms of like the Yahara study there, the economic impact, I think if we really ran through the numbers, there's a strong economic return on investment for the work that the district is doing in terms of water protection and improvement to the local communities and businesses. But we just haven't run through them that far. But if you extrapolate from other data that's known and out there, I think it's pretty self-evident in my opinion.
Well, I think that was well said. I think the other thing that we have to mention is rules. You know, stop doing what people were doing. Comfort Lake, for example, was all farms around it, and at the north end, people have been pulling out tractors and cars and car parts and all of that, you know, for the last 20 years. I think it's finally over, but you know, in the past 1940s, 50s even, people were still using lakes as junkyards. So in a lot of places. And so it's getting rid of the legacy bad habits and then with rules, putting new ones in place so that lakes don't get that bad going forward. So rules are also very important, you know, in this whole process. So clean up the legacy stuff and then do it right going forward. Anyway, this has been a good discussion, but we have some more things to take care of, and we can pursue this more, I think, in May, one of the May meetings. But look, I think what you're getting at, Manager Schottmuller, is really good and important to have talking points for each of us and for our particular lakes that we're on, so that we can tell the same history and the same purpose when we're out there talking to our neighbors. So I think that's a really good suggestion. Make sure we write that down.
Got it recorded. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that too. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Next is the Bone Lake South Nature Area Fencing.
Madam
President
President?
Anderson,
We have voted.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we need to.
Oh, I'm sorry, a vote. Sorry, we need a vote.
I will make the motion to approve the 2025 year in review annual report and progress report.
Is there a second?
I'd second.
Thank you, Manager Taves. Roll call?
Manager Schottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye, thank you. All right, let's move on to Bone Lake South Nature Area Fencing.
Hey, President Managers, Blaine is at a Lake Association meeting, but so Emily and I can answer any question on this, but so the district had secured this conservation partner legacy grant as a component of the acquisition portion of the Bone Lake South Nature Area. And so we worked through some of the remaining funds to look at implementing some of the fencing that would like to be done. In particular, there's, as we know, there's no fence because we've moved some of the property lines. There's no fence between the now private property and that's owned by the district. So that's a priority section for us, but we've really been able to go through these other ones, and we have a very an acceptable bid, or I guess a quote for this. And so we worked with council, and we have a motion here in terms of getting that completed. There is a time element to this. The work needs to be done by the end of June.
So I'll move to direct the administrator on advice from legal counsel to enter into an agreement with Olson Fencing to implement the Bow Lake South Nature Area fencing project in accordance with the 4/10/26 quote on the prioritization indicated in this memo for a sum not to exceed the remaining grant funds equaling $69,165.
I will
Is there a
second. that
second?
motion.
Okay, Manager Baki, seconds.
I have a question
Roll call.
for Mr. Kinney.
Yep, go ahead.
Mike, does this include gates for the fencing?
That's a very good question. There are certain elements we have to still work through where we want to put some. And so we'll. And I guess maybe from in conversation with council, it's really about the dollar amount and being able to have them do this work. There is some because the overall price is a little bit more than what we have for the waiting work, so we may want to do some additional stuff. There is also the area where the parking is that we would not want to install a new fence because we're going to then create a driveway, at phase 2. So we'll, and that would be the principal area that we'll enter and exit. We may just reuse the one gate where there's a current driveway on the north side, but other than that, we don't anticipate any other access or other gates around the property.
That sounds good, Mike. I just need gates. I'm getting too old to climb over fences.
Well, once we get the public access component, then it'll be, you can drive your scooter or golf cart or whatever down there.
Tricycle.
Yeah. Okay, any further questions or comments?
Madam
If, go ahead.
Chair, I'll just note, I think page 4 of the agenda item is a graphic of the site, and it has 2 red stars on it that I believe represent access points.
Yeah.
So that doesn't require climbing over a fence, right, Chuck?
Swinging on the gate.
Maybe it will be British style, and there will be stiles there.
Okay, are we done? Let's call a roll call.
Manager Schrockmiller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Passes unanimous, thank you. Next item is Natural Shoreline Education and Outreach Campaign update.
And president and managers, the highlight of the evening, we have Mr. Jelm here to go over this, and at the request of the board from the previous meeting. So Adam, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Kinney. Apologize, I missed the last meeting due to illness, but there was a pre-recorded video and a PowerPoint that was available at that meeting for the board review. We also had a memo at this board meeting that revisited those items. I did review the video with the comments from the board members from the last meeting. Appreciated the feedback. And it also was mentioned by the president to comment or ask me any questions or get a hold of me if folks had any questions. And several board members did that. Had a good chat with Manager Taves at the Bone Lake South about the videos and things like that. So just bringing this back if there's any questions, concerns. And also noted that this project's almost over. So at the May 26th regular board meeting, we'll have the final report and the presentation.
Any questions, comments?
I do have some comments. I just wanted to have this flow back over to this meeting because I think an exceptional job was done here by the team. And I know you, Adam, worked with Aiden, and I still think back when Manager Anderson and myself were meeting with some more people, remember? And there was all kinds of confusion. It was a very complicated situation because so many different ideas and approaches. And out of that kind of chaos came this program, which is nice and clean and straightforward and uses all kinds of media support tools in a very cost-efficient way. So I was very proud to see that kind of work come out of this effort. So, and then the fact is that you also focused on the top 100, the 80-20 role of focusing on the top 100 shorelines that needed the most help and that had the best ability to respond. That was another great way to get focused. So I just think it's an overall good program, as evidenced by the response you got and the ratings you got on your work. So I just want to thank you personally for this and for Aiden also, because I know he worked hard on it also, and anyone else that did too. So nice job, Adam.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's a tough thing to change people's baked in concepts of what's good and what's right. It's gonna take a while, but yeah, I agree. We're taking our first steps at a good path, on a good path. So I'm happy about that. Anyone else want to comment?
I think, and President Adam, also, maybe you can, there was a grant that went along with this, right? And that, just so people in the audience know that that was another element to the work. So yes, very, very well done, I think, overall.
Okay. Hearing none others, thank you so much for being here and wrapping this up for us, Adam, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move on. Report of staff, administrator.
Madam President, managers, at the some prior meetings, there's been some suggestions about more information. But we've changed the format a little bit in both the administrator's report, but then also just information. Do have some photos, because that also gives some imagery. We know the board members are around. I'm also going to make the suggestion that as we go into the 2027 budget process, if managers want to take turns one at a time, come in on Monday mornings at 9 o'clock to see our staff meeting, to see the kind of the breadth and depth of the activities that are occurring. I think this would provide the board a little bit more insight about the activities, because maybe to a fault, and I know that's kind of like, we just kind of are getting things done, and a lot of things don't get reported back to the board because they're just elements of things that need to get done. But they can draw attention, and it's important to communicate to the public all the work that is being done, let alone the board itself. So there's that. We could go through. Thank you for the PowerPoint here. Just first is that first image is on the North Shore Trail property, the burn that was done. I would like to discuss with the board an email that Mayor Roberts has sent to 3 of the board members. So by open meeting law, we'll have to discuss that at some point, and maybe we'll have a chance to today. So next item is just some things that the board can look at if they want, as they kind of going through different elements, is all of those are links to the approved plans that the district has worked on, the staff has worked on with the board. So it's readily available. Next item then is just general administration. We have a new Conservation Corps member, Kennedy Cole, and she had started here in early April, and she'll be here through October. Again, that's a position funded by an outside program, but we're fortunate to have her as a team member through that period, and she's really doing an excellent job. We're very impressed with work that she's doing. District has submitted the application for loan E, still being reviewed. So, but at the same time, we're looking at our expenditures and hoping that we can get through the first 6 months without need of that. So, and then just a note also that there's a first ever National Special Districts Day, which the Watershed District would be one of. Some 40,000 special districts around the country. And so that's on May 6th coming up. Less than 2 weeks, it's a Wednesday, so. Next item will be on the program for permitting. And this is just the activity between those particular dates, 17th and April 10th, number of site visits, number of permit applications received, and then those reviewed. So more information in the administrator's report for more detail. Next, we'll look at monitoring. Camp monitoring has begun with staff, and then here's Blaine and Matthew installing the staff gauges and lake level loggers. These are the ones then that you can look online and see what the lake level is. So it'll be automatically recorded and transferred. All right. Next, staff continues with their 9-point source in terms of staff engagement with applications. There's been 6 projects have been approved so far in 2026, plus many site visits. And Aiden had a farmer-led council meeting here as part of a morning coffee hour last week with a guest speaker that talked about his farming system, mostly around manure handling. Well, education outreach, we just had Adam on here and he could maybe speak to this more, but just some of the projects or some of the activities that he's been doing, both on native bees and host plants, and then again, kind of tracking from attendance and approximate which ones are in the district and which ones are not. So again, continuing in the education and outreach, Watershed Connections program there, March 16th. And the other one, the Bone Lake South informational meeting, for those that were in attendance, we had 62 people there, good turnout with lots of questions. The next is interagency communication, Lower St. Croix. Next meeting is Monday, April 27th, Policy Committee. First one in some number of months, I think 6 months perhaps. Planning team is then meeting on the 29th, so then we'll know the board has heard a fair amount about that in the last few months. Next item on programs is research. So University of Minnesota has a lake user survey. It was out last year, and then these signs were placed at Forest Lake boat launches. And interesting to note that we could share the data on this, but of the lakes that they did these tests on, Forest Lake received most positive comments about being clean than any other lake that they were doing surveys work on.
Wow,
Yeah.
we should get that. We
And
can.
who was that with?
University of Minnesota.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, just in terms of user perceptions. So
Did they do the other lakes in that area or just, yeah?
we can share the research results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
There were not, that was the only one in the district here.
Okay.
So, measurement of progress, these are things that we just went through. Bowser PRAP one is another one that's been ongoing. That Emily's been leading on as well. And then, just doing some other survey work from that perspective on the performance, review and assessment program, so. Next, grant research and preparation, we were 319 small watershed focus money. That work plan will go to the MPCA first, and then we're hoping the grants will be available around year end. This is something that the district was awarded. Emily, is this our third cycle now on this? This is
Our second installment.
second. Okay, so it's for 4 installments for basically over 16 years, 250,000 roughly, or yes, this year 279,583. Recently the district received this No Child Left Inside. That's $5,000, minor one, but it's going to help Adam do a lot of his programming with the kids in schools. And then active grants table, that's also in that administrator's report on the bottom for you to review. Some O&M things there. We see staff out working on the iron handstand filters, as well as installing rear boards in Bixby Park and Bone Lake. AS activity again, different activities that staff have been working on. That their rapid response plan, we'll work more on that. Some staff are going to be working with the Conservation Corps to do some other. Remember what the plant is, but I guess it'll come back to me. I guess Blue Water Science has started the spring leaf delineations. I think we have several of them already received, and next 2013 Washington Planning Resiliency, that's got moved from this meeting to the next one. We're giving the city some opportunity for further review. They provided just today. Emily was coordinating with Abby over there, and they would like to have more discussion on that. So I think that's going to be a good outcome there from that perspective, at least better communication. On the project side, Heath Avenue iron handstand filter bids have been received. The staff and EOR and council met today on the bids received, and we have some more questions of the low bid, and we'll continue to work on those, and the target is to bring something on to May 14th. The North Shore Trail nature area, there was that prescribed burn again down. That was we had received a grant for doing that restoration work, and that work was done. We had received a comment to a Facebook post we put out there about this project from Blake Roberts, and then he talked to me about it again after the Lake Association meeting about the property as a whole. He was surprised that the city had offered, or he was not aware of, I guess, that the city had provided a letter of support. So I provided that information to him, his request, just recently, yesterday. And again, he included 3 board members, so just wanted to make that known. But there was a letter of support from the city, a letter of support from the Forest Lake Association. I provided a copy of the management plan for the property, other communications with the city, both the management plan development and coordination of the activity, and that the property was acquired. Well, first of all, it was the Lake Association had reached out to both the city and the watershed district about acquiring the property, because it's mostly 16 out of the 19 acres is wetland. The road and right of way encompasses probably half of the remaining 3 acres. And so from a protection standpoint, then we reviewed it and discussed it. The city felt that was more appropriate for us to pursue it. There's been some change at city staff level, so there may be some communication transfer issues there, but either way, we do have that information. We did get a grant to acquire the property, and then another grant has been used to do the restoration work. So. And there we are for today.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Nice to have that on the,
Yeah, I
Video
think whoever, I guess,
video for,
thanks staff, whoever put that together for you, so nice job.
Yeah, a number of people worked on it, I'm
Sure,
sure.
so and it's very effective, I think, I read it for the first time tonight and, or before I came over, and it's very helpful.
I
A
think
lot to say about pictures and words together,
Mhm.
so.
I think it's important to have it on the taping of this meeting as well, because people that don't go on YouTube to watch those kinds of things, they can see it. So that's nice. All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Mike. Next is,
President Anderson,
yes,
quick
Go ahead.
question for Mike. Mike, when Blue Water Signs did a delineation for curly leaf pondweed in April, any indication as to what the results were?
Let's see, Mike Sandiger's not anymore. Let me take a look while we go through the other ones. I'll get back to you and see if I have an
Thank you.
email. I know there's been some, but I don't know if that's which one's particular. So.
all right. Are we ready? Next is EOR.
Yep, I'll keep it short. I think Mike hit on most of the things that we're assisting the district with. I think the one on my list that wasn't included is Ann mentioned to me that she's actively working on putting together a list of monitoring sites to do some sediment sampling in the Comfort Lake drainage area to further hone in on some potential projects out there. So.
Thank you. Next is report for treasurer. Oh, excuse me, Smith Partners.
I have nothing, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chuck. Next, reporter treasurer.
Okay, President Anderson, we had income of $56,006.35, and of that amount, 49,000 was a grant because of for water storage and I guess water quality improvements. So not much revenue coming in. The expenses for the month were $175,831.44. So I'd like to make a motion that the board accept the treasurer's report and approve the payment of the $175,831.44.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Manager Schottenmuller,
Aye.
Manager Page,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimous. Next is report of managers. I'll just go down the line here. Manager Schottenmuller, anything from you?
Do you want to hear about my great trip in Utah? Otherwise, I don't have anything.
We'll see the travel log later. Thank you. Manager Taves.
I could give you my concert schedule, but that's not pertinent either, so. Nothing here.
We know you're busy. I tried singing once in your absence. That didn't go over so well. Okay, Manager Schmaltz.
Just to mention that the Lake Association held their annual meeting last week, and the staff did a great job working at the meeting, and Mike and Abe made a very good presentation. In fact, you were there, we had some really good presentations.
Yeah, really good.
And so we had about 160 people there, so it was another good turnout.
Good, great. Manager Baki.
I've got my ThinkPad back. I'm so happy, so I can use my email account
Wow.
with the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, so you don't have to email my personal email any longer. I truly had them baffled, but they got it figured out finally. The other thing is Manager Anderson and I have been working on the quarterly review, and Manager Anderson, did you want to provide a update on that as well?
No, you can, if you'd like. But
Well, our plan is at our next board meeting to go into closed session. Is that correct?
oh, you're not talking about the quarterly review. You're talking about his performance.
Administrative review, yes.
Yeah, the annual review. That will be, that was postponed until the next meeting. We had this issue come up, that I knew was gonna take some time. Didn't take as much time as I thought it was going to, but, I've talked to Mike and he's fine with that, so, not to worry. Everybody has done their review and it looks good, Mike. I'll leave you with that.
Can you keep me another year?
Yes, yeah. Okay, what I have to bring up is just a couple of things. I left you a message, I think, today on this. I took some pictures. The business that's right at the Sunrise River, coming out of Forest Lake, so it's under Highway 8. So it's to the north of that. There's a lot of tree canopy that's down, kind of pushed toward the lake, or toward the river, I mean. Quite a bit of garbage that's right in the river area. It looks like the holding pond that used to be there in the parking out area, is gone. There's a whole line of equipment, where that used to be. So I keep an eye on this pretty closely, as you know, but, Sunday I did walk down along the fence line, on the highway side and took some pictures as best I could. There's a big fence there, wire fence, so there's a little bit of that. And then I took some from the parking lot area looking toward the water. And you can see the number of, it's smaller equipment, but it's powerful. I think maybe some of that is what happened with the trees, but I do think we need to look at it, maybe get the DNR involved so that they can take a look as well. And then I wanted to make sure that our staff is always notifying state agencies when information is brought to them. Like those gelatinous things that I found in the lake, Comfort Lake last year. Those are really rare, and so the DNR does want to keep a map of sightings for all of this, so. So I do want to make sure that when you're talking to staff, that things like that should be done in coordination with the appropriate state agency. That information should be passed along. Okay? And that's all I have. So, next is the summary and approval of board direction. I did not forget it this time.
Madam Chair, managers,
Mhm.
this is what I have. With respect to the budget outreach plan, President Anderson asked that anything that's intended for public consumption come before the board first. President Anderson asked that staff schedule a future board discussion regarding funding and related policy questions related to Eurasian water milfoil and starry stonework management. And Manager Schmaltz asked that staff suggested twice a year staff information or plastic card to residents about starry stonework. Mr. Sandiger said that Mr. Helm would incorporate information in his newsletter. There's one item, President Anderson, you may need to clarify, but it concerns interest in staff helping to coordinate standard talking points across lakes as a way to speak about the district's goals.
Mhm.
And then I have staff will share with the managers the results of the university's user survey regarding Forest Lake or generally. And then finally, President Anderson asked that staff look at the site north of Highway 8, coordinate with the DNR as appropriate, and in general, to coordinate with state agencies when relevant matters arise.
Any changes or adds? Nope. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, Chuck. And the summary and approval of board direction. I'll approve the board direction as read tonight. You second it?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, roll call.
Manager Shopmiller,
Sorry, I left my mute on. Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Now, we come to the conclusion of the evening and do it right away, fast. Fast responses. It's 8:30. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, second, let's give it to the new guy, okay? All right, quick. Roll call.
Manager Shopmiller,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
and President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
We are adjourned.
Thanks.